Welcome to the Morning Download Podcast, your go-to resource for personal finance, economics, and market insights. In just 8 minutes a day, we provide valuable information to help you make better money decisions.
Hey there, investors! It's a bit of a wild world out there right now, isn't it? Political turmoil seems to be the name of the game these days, and it's got everyone on high alert. With all this chaos swirling around, it's crucial to keep your finances in check. One great strategy to get on top of things is by tackling that pesky, high-interest debt. Seriously, it's like an anchor weighing you down. The sooner you can pay it off, the better. Trust me, you'll feel lighter and freer once it's off your plate. Speaking of finances, did you know that around 10% of U.S. households actually hold international equity? It's interesting to see how diverse our investments can be in this globalized world. Now let's dive into today's discussion. We've got some big earnings announcements happening this week. It's always exciting to see how companies perform and what it means for the market as a whole. In other news, Gemini, the cryptocurrency exchange, is facing a lawsuit. It's not uncommon for legal battles to happen in the world of digital currencies, but it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. Lastly, we can't ignore the fact that despite economic struggles, many Americans continue to spend. It's a fascinating topic to explore, as it highlights the complex relationship between income, consumption, and personal finance. So here's some interesting news about the economy. Toyota, one of the biggest automakers in the world, has decided to adopt Tesla's charging standard for its electric vehicles sold in the US. Starting from 2025, all Toyota EVs in the US will work with Tesla's North American Charging Standard, NACS, instead of the current combined charging system plugs used by other automakers in the country. This is a pretty big win for Tesla, especially considering that Toyota is such a major player in the industry. It's worth noting that Elon Musk had invited other automakers and charging companies to adopt Tesla's NX back in November 2022. And in just 6 months, we've seen names like GM, Mercedes-Benz, Ford, Honda, and Nissan hop on board, but it's not all smooth sailing. Some companies, like Stellantis, have yet to make the move and switch to NX. They might have their own plans or reasons for sticking with their current systems. In other global news, China has decided to restrict exports of graphite as part of a larger tech war. Meanwhile, Shein, the popular online fashion retailer, is preparing for a U.S. initial public offering, IPO. And here's an interesting tidbit. Baby boomer spending is reportedly causing inflation in the UK. Oh, and don't forget to keep an eye on the banking sector, as banks are now laying off employees. It seems like the economy keeps throwing us new surprises. Last week, there were some big earnings reports, including Tesla and a few other major names. This week, we're expecting even more announcements from companies like Microsoft, Meta Platforms, formerly known as Facebook, Google or Alphabet, and Coca-Cola. Let's start with Microsoft. Experts are feeling pretty positive about its earnings. Microsoft is projected to grow its earnings and revenue by around 6% and 9% per year respectively. And the earnings per share, EPS, is expected to grow by 7% each year. Return on equity, a measure of profitability, is forecasted to be 4% in 3 years. So there's a lot of optimism surrounding Microsoft. Moving on to Meta Platforms, it's anticipated to experience strong growth as well. Earnings and revenue are projected to increase by about 5% and 9% per annum respectively. The EPS is expected to grow by 4% per year. The return on equity for Meta Platforms is forecasted at 8% in 3 years. While this report may surprise investors, we're not expecting a massive jump in its stock price. Nevertheless, we're still feeling bullish about Meta Platforms. Next up is Google, or Alphabet. It's forecasted to have solid growth too, with earnings and revenue expected to grow around 6% and 9% per year, respectively. The EPS is projected to grow by 3% each year. Return on equity is forecasted to be 7% in 3 years. Google typically beats earnings expectations, but it's not always followed by a significant increase in stock price. Keep an eye on it as a potential buy next year. Lastly, we recently covered Coca-Cola in detail in our previous Pro newsletter. We actually called it a buy. If you want more information, feel free to check out the letter for free. In other news, there's a significant market indicator, the 10-year U.S. Treasury, that hasn't reached this level since the Great Recession. Make sure to take a look at that as well. So, there's some major news in the world of crypto recently. 3 top cryptocurrency firms have been accused of defrauding investors. One of them is Gemini, which happens to be one of the largest cryptocurrency firms out there. It's alleged that Gemini was actually lying to its customers about the risks of an investment account it offered. Apparently, this account promised high interest rates on crypto. But wait, there's more. It turns out that Genesis and its parent company, Digital Currency Group, were also involved in this whole program. Now, who's filing the lawsuit? None other than the New York Attorney General, Letitia James. She's not messing around. The crypto industry has been feeling the heat lately, that's for sure. Remember the FTX case? And let's not forget the situation between Ripple and the SEC, which is still pretty murky. It's safe to say that things have been complicated in the crypto world. But here's the interesting part. Gemini has actually been dealing with legal issues for some time now. Earlier this year, the SEC, or the Securities and Exchange Commission, charged both Genesis and Gemini for the unregistered offer and sale of cryptocurrencies through the Gemini Earn Lending program. So it seems like Gemini has been caught up in legal troubles before. The plot thickens. Did you know that about 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck? That's right. Despite inflation pressures cooling off, more than half of American adults are still struggling to meet their financial demands, and it seems that lower-income workers are suffering the most. In fact, about 66% of consumers earning less than $50,000 annually struggled in June, while about 65% of consumers earning between $50,000 and $100,000 faced financial issues in the same month. Surprisingly, only 45% of consumers earning $100,000 or more reported living paycheck to paycheck. It's no wonder that more than 50% of U.S. consumers find themselves struggling on a daily basis, resorting to credit cards or dwindling savings. But there are ways to secure your future and improve your financial situation. One effective strategy is to reduce your expenses and save more. Yes, it can be challenging, but it's important to prioritize your financial well-being. That Disney trip can wait. Instead, focus on building an emergency fund. It's also worth thinking outside the box to make more money. Consider working double shifts, getting a side hustle or a second job. And even if you have no savings to invest, find creative ways to make money from what you already have. In addition, there are a few options we encourage you to explore. First, get insurance to protect yourself in case of an accident. Health and vehicle insurance are not only a smart choice, but they're often mandatory as well. Next, don't be afraid to ask your boss for a raise. You'd be surprised how simply asking can lead to a higher salary. And if your current pay isn't keeping up with inflation, at least request a match with inflation. Many companies are open to such discussions. Lastly, consider selling items you no longer need and using that extra money wisely. Do you have an old TV collecting dust? Put it up for sale on eBay. Think about canceling unnecessary subscriptions like Netflix and explore free alternatives like YouTube for entertainment. Remember, improving your personal finance situation requires both discipline and creativity. By reducing expenses, making more money, and using your resources wisely, you can pave the way to a financially secure future. Today's personal finance quote comes from T.T. Munger, and it's a real gem. The habit of saving is itself an education. It fosters every virtue, teaches self-denial, cultivates the sense of order, trains to forethought, and so broadens the mind. Think about it. When you develop the habit of saving money, you're not just stashing away some extra cash. You're also learning important life skills. Saving requires discipline and a willingness to make sacrifices, which builds character. It teaches you to prioritize what truly matters and resist the temptation of instant gratification. But it goes beyond that. Saving money also helps cultivate a sense of order in your financial life. By carefully managing your expenses and tracking your savings, you gain a better understanding of your financial situation. This clarity can reduce stress and give you a greater sense of control over your money. In addition, saving money trains you to think ahead. You're no longer just living paycheck to paycheck. You're preparing for the future. Whether it's an emergency fund or saving for retirement, the act of saving instills in you a sense of responsibility and foresight. And finally, Munger suggests that saving broadens the mind. When you accumulate wealth, you open up possibilities and opportunities. It grants you the freedom to pursue your passions, take risks, and achieve your goals. So, start making saving a habit today and experience the transformative power it can have on your life. Remember, it's not just about the money, it's about the lessons learned along the way.
On this episode, we covered important topics, including the significance of financial stability during political unrest, Toyota's adoption of Tesla's charging standard for their U.S. electric vehicles, major companies reporting earnings, Gemini and other entities being accused of fraud, the impact of living paycheck to paycheck, and the benefits of saving money as an educational habit. Thanks for tuning in to the Morning Download, your go-to podcast for personal finance, economics, and market insights in just 8 minutes a day. Don't forget to subscribe for more helpful content and sign up for our free newsletter at Morning Download. Subscribe,